Welcome to the Association Management Series presented by Rayborn Group International. This session will be 10 Easy Things You Should Be Doing for Membership Development, presented by Kim Paw, CAE. Kim, a certified association executive, has been with RGI since 2004. With her expertise in strategic planning and financial management, paired with her experience in commercial real estate, engineering, and amusement and vending education, Kim provides strong leadership to the associations she serves. Driven by knowing what she does day in and day out impacts the success of her members, Kim has retooled programs and communications to provide more value to members, resulting in an increase in net revenue and member engagement. With many years of experience in association management under her belt, Kim leads the strategic planning and implementation process for her clients to ensure a clear vision for the association and continual progress towards that vision. And now, I will turn it over to Kim.
Hi, welcome, and thanks for spending your time with me today for the next 30-40 minutes or so. I know your time is precious, so I appreciate that. My passion has been membership development. So for all the organizations I've served, and I've served about 6 in my time, my 12 years actually with Rayborn Group, it's really been about membership development. I'm a jack of all trades and I do a lot of different things, but that's really what I care about the most. And I've worked for both state groups, local groups, and national groups, and have been at a chapter level. And actually, in my role as executive director for the Indiana Commercial Board of Realtors, they are actually a state association as part of a national organization. So today what we're going to talk about is membership development. We're going to do that in 2 ways. We'll first talk about what it isn't, what membership development is not. And then I'm going to give you 10 easy things that you can be doing to develop membership in your local organizations. And what I say 10 is a bit of a misnomer because it's 10 concepts and there's probably more than 10 things. So you'll be drinking through a fire hose a little bit today, but hopefully you can come out of it with a few things that you can take back to your organization. So we'll jump right in and talk about what membership development is not. And I really had a hard time narrowing down what to put in this presentation when I was putting this presentation together, because there really is no silver bullet for membership development. There's just no one thing that if you do this one thing, you're going to be successful. It is really about being incremental and continuous and making membership development part of everything that you do, which is why it can be difficult. It can be challenging at times. One of the things that's important to understand as we talk about membership development is that we're not just talking about getting new members. That's certainly part of it. Recruitment is part of membership development, but we also need to talk about retention, how we keep our members that we have, and also engagement, getting them to do something. And let me be clear about engagement. When I talk about engagement, I mean engaging the members so that they feel like they're getting the value that they want out of your organization. I'm not talking about getting the members to do what you want them to do. It's about getting them to do the things that they then feel are valuable to them, that they then feel value in belonging to your organization. So that's what I talk about when I talk about engagement. So we're going to talk about strategies for all 3 of these legs of the membership development stool: the recruitment, retention, and engagement, through this presentation. You know, membership development is not a project with unlimited resources. You're volunteers. And even if you have staff, the project of getting new members and retaining current members is usually a very volunteer-driven experience in most organizations. And so it's important to use those resources well, and to not overlook the importance of retention and engagement, because recruitment is one of the hardest things to do and it takes the most resources. So if not skipping out on the fundamentals of keeping your current members and engaging them will increase your membership numbers over time, instead of spending a lot of time just on getting new members. And membership development is not throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. It's okay to try new things and see if they work, but you have to have some there are some easy strategies to help you make data-driven decisions, and we'll talk about those here in a little bit. All right, so the first concept is centered around recruitment, and this is know your value proposition. This is knowing what is your unique value that you present to your members. And this is comprised of what you do and why they, your members, care. A lot of people, when they talk about their value, they stop at the what you do. Well, we provide education, networking, and a certification. And that's what we do. And that's our value proposition. But you have to make sure you articulate why your members should care about that. So for example, in my organization, the Indiana Commercial Board of Realtors, we're commercial real estate brokers. What we do is provide education, technology, and advocacy. And they should care about that because those things help them become a better professional and make more money. And we say that in a lot of different iterations, but essentially that's what it boils down to. Education is what we do, and that education helps you be a better broker, helping you make more deals. Networking is what we provide, but the networking allows you to make more connections and get more deals done. And as a bonus, you can also add on, if you have the information, and sometimes this can be difficult, why you're not lying. So you can say our members report, this percentage more deals through their interactions with the organization. So making sure that you have an articulated value proposition, what you do, but why they care. And then if you could prove that you're not lying, that's even better. Think about what your members want most. Success, career advancement, more money, work-life balance, whatever it is, figure out what you're doing as an organization to serve those members' wants. And we'll talk a little bit later about how to figure those things out. And making sure that when you're talking about your organization, it's not a laundry list of things that you do. It's not about the organization, it's about the member, and making those short value statements that are very member focused. The members are the hero in the story, not the organization. The organization is the hero's guide. So making sure your communications are member focused, and that you're really talking about them and not about your organization. And then making sure all of your leaders and volunteers buy into this value proposition, and they know it. They know it by heart. It's short, it's memorable, it's their elevator speech, and then they can really champion that as they're talking to people, as they're networking. So I'm going to share, it's on about 4 or 5 different slides, but it's one graphic that I got from Abilla. So I'm going to share these, and these slides will be available to you after the presentation so you can digest them in a little bit more detail. But one of the things I want to point out on this slide is in the lower left-hand corner, why they join. And the key here is the difference between what members say and what organizations think. And it's important to not make assumptions about why your members are joining your organization. It's important to ask, because members are looking for one set of things, and the organization thinks that they're attracting members for another set of things. So it's important that we understand that. And the other thing I'll point out on the why they leave section is the 32% think it's too costly and 19% find little value. To me, that's the same problem. If they think it's too expensive, it's because they don't find value. So really having that articulated value proposition and making sure it's connected to what members actually want from your organization will help retain those members better. So another recruitment opportunity for you could be forming strategic partnerships. And this is a way to reach new audiences for your organization. So really understanding the different organizations in your market, and don't buy into being too competitive. You might have crossover membership with these organizations, or they may have competing events or certifications, but there may be a way for you to work together in a mutually beneficial way. maybe offering reciprocal, if you have competing events, for example, offering special pricing for their members to attend your event and your members to attend theirs. And figuring out, just having conversations with those leaders and figuring out what your problems are and what their problems are, and maybe there's a way that you can mutually solve that problem. A couple examples, my group has a large convention, and then just one year it just so happened it conflicted with another large event in our market. And instead of just moving forward and competing with each other with events at the same time, we decided to join forces and combine one portion of our event, so it's largely educational, and theirs was largely a trade show. So combining that trade show, and it's been pretty successful the last couple of years. So we found a mutually beneficial way to move forward. You know, in a lot of our markets, we're seeing for-profit companies come in trying to provide education, and that's in competition with our education. And this happened to us just recently, and we decided, hey, you know what, we're going to sponsor. They had an opportunity for sponsorship. We're going to sponsor that event, and that way our name's on there as the leader in this market for commercial real estate education, and it worked out really well. So there's definitely some things you can do to help mitigate your competition by partnering with them, and you know, make sure you have some kind of memorandum of understanding so that the tenets of your agreement are clear between both parties, and evaluate that often, and don't be afraid to walk away when it's just not serving the purpose that you really set out to serve. So the other thought to think about when we're talking about recruitment is not trying to be everything to everyone. You can recruit a lot of, you could probably get people interested in your organization, but if they're not core to what you do and the value you provide as an organization, when they have to make that decision to renew and they're not likely to have been served very well, they're probably not going to renew. So that it becomes wasted energy. I think an example that I have recently, we have a product, so it's not really about membership, but we have a product that that we provide our brokers, and the appraisers that were using it were having some complaints, and they wanted some really specific functionality that really only served appraisers. And we had some long conversations because, you know, these appraisers were our customers and we wanted to support our customers. However, we decided to focus our attention on what the brokers needed, because we really only had 6 appraisers versus 700 brokers, and there was another product in the market that served the appraisers. So we really wanted to stay core to who we are. We lost a couple of appraiser subscribers to that product, but in the long run, we're staying focused on our core member that we can provide value to over the long term. And, you know, keep in mind that more members is not always successful. You're looking to have more engaged members. You could have 500 members, and if only 200 of them are engaging in your events and your products and your certifications, you know, that's not necessarily successful. So, and it costs a lot to recruit. So keeping in mind who you really want to serve, and who you really want to be part of your organization, and staying focused on that when you're having conversations about who you're going to reach out to recruit. All right, so this next graphic, I'm not going to go over in too much detail other than to say, you know, 50% of the workforce by 2020 will be millennials. So understanding millennials is important, and Gen Z is right behind them. That's not even on this graphic. What they want is probably a reflection of how long they've been in their jobs and in their careers. So it obviously evolves as they are in their careers longer. So that's something to keep in mind. And be careful of making assumptions about millennials and Gen Zs as we start to talk about them. You know, the best way to learn about the generation, the younger folks in your industry, is to get them involved. And make sure your young professional programs are designed by your young professionals, and really listen to them. So that's just something to think about as you're recruiting millennial members. So now I move on to retention. The retention, one of the important things to remember is to remind members why they belong. As a leader, you get it. You talk about it all the time. And it's really easy to forget that the average member, on a good day, your organization is maybe fourth or fifth on their list of priorities. So remember that they're not as in tune to what your organization is doing, why you're doing it. So it's important to tell them all the time. Don't just send out an event invoice or event invitation that says, here's the event, here's the date and the time. Make sure you're telling them why they should attend. And make sure you're being specific. Don't just say networking. Say, networking to help you make more contacts. Really think about the value proposition of that event and sell that, and remind them over and over and over again. And remember, that there's a difference between the way that you see the organization as a leader and the way that the average member sees it. And making sure you're listening to that member. Remind them about their national benefits, because that's once removed from their interactions with you. So it's important to tell them about that so they can take advantage of that. And really, when you're talking about what your organization is doing, make it about the member and how you're solving their problems. And create a simple communication plan to help you stay on task and help you schedule all the things that you want to say about your organization so that they can be most impactful throughout the year. So retention, one of the important things about retention is to know your members' problems. We've talked about this already a little bit. A successful organization solves its members' problems. So in order to solve your members' problems, you need to know what they are. And there's lots of ways to do this. Surveys is something that you all are probably doing, but you can also just have a representative focus group of, different segments of your membership to just get together and talk about a problem. But whatever you do, it's important not to make assumptions. Maybe you have a hypothesis. You think the members have this problem. Make sure you test that hypothesis with a survey or a focus group, or by just making a few phone calls and confirming it with a few members. And make sure to avoid the everyone and nobody language. Everyone is doing this, or nobody would like that, or nobody has this problem, without data behind that. And there's a lot of different ways for you to conduct surveys for free. A lot of membership softwares have it. Google Forms is an easy to use free service, and so is SurveyMonkey. So those are some things you can check out on your own if you're not already using some survey tool. And I want to share with you my favorite survey questions for membership surveys. And I won't go through all of these in detail. I will say the first couple I think are important because not only do they glean a lot of information for you, but they also are showing your members that you care about them. I care about your challenges. I care about your goals. And that not only gets you great information to help you with your programs and services, but it says, hey, we want to serve you and we care about you. Asking about relevance is helping you build that data so you can make your own graphic showing what your members want and why they join and why they leave, so you understand and can make data-driven decisions about what your organization is doing. Asking what other organizations your members belong to might help informing those strategic partnerships, but it also helps you understand what competitors you really have and helps you figure out, how you can be unique. What can you uniquely offer that the other organizations your members belong to can't? And then, the other questions really get to kind of are they finding value in your organization? What do they like about it? Are they likely to renew, or would they recommend it to someone else? Building relationships. This is key to both retention but engagement. Avoiding cliques and the club feel, especially for millennial members. If they come to a meeting or an event and it feels like a club they don't belong to, it's probably the last event they're going to attend. A couple easy ways you can do this. You give your leadership a list of new members that are attending the event and ask them to say hi and introduce themselves, or maybe introduce them to somebody. Or make a rule the board. I've talked to a couple of executive directors, or their organization has a rule that board members aren't allowed to sit together. And that really is just a challenge that they gave to one another. It wasn't really meant to be mean in any way, but it was a challenge that they gave to one another to really branch out as leaders of the organization and build those relationships with the other members instead of with them amongst themselves. Ambassador programs are great. Those are also people that could reach out to new members and serve a lot of different purposes. Sponsors and vendors, if you have sponsors and vendors in your organization, are great ambassadors because they want to connect with your members anyway. You got to be careful and know your members and how they'll react to getting that phone call. But if that's something that if you think is a good fit, it could be a way to get those new member outreach done. And sending welcome letters or notes is great, and following up. But know your audience too. Not everybody likes to get a phone call. So maybe it's a quick email or even a text based on, how they like to be communicated with. Ask for informal feedback. Maybe in addition to the leaders talking to new members, maybe everyone comes to an event with a question that you guys have been pondering as a board, and you ask that question of a few members and report back. And making sure you have great customer service at every interaction, from the time they join, anytime they interact with your organization when they need something, making sure that they can get what they need from you in an easy way, and they get great service along the way. So now talking about engagement, having a process for continuous program evaluation. So that's making sure that everything you do as an organization is serving your members in the way that they want to be served, that you don't have any sacred cows, the thing that you've just always done, but you're not really sure whether it's really valuable to your organization. And I'm going to talk in a minute about how some questions you can ask to evaluate that. But also making sure you're doing a survey after each event just to make sure that the event met your attendees' expectations and get feedback on, future things that they're looking for. And asking members about your communications too. Do they read them? What would make them read your newsletter if they didn't? Again, we talked a lot about solving problems. So really trying new things to solve a problem. And it's okay to start small. It's okay to say, we want to try this new format for an event. So let's invite 20 people to come or 10 people to come to this event before we launch it in a larger scale way. Or it's okay to not start something new and just take something you're already doing and make it a little bit better. And really think about, when you're doing your programs, how do you surprise and delight your members? They're there for the education, but what's another little nugget that you can give them to make them go home and say, I wasn't really expecting to get this, but this is really valuable. So here's some questions, some metrics for you to rate your programs. And make sure when you're doing this, you're using a representative group of people. This doesn't necessarily have to be a survey, but as long as you feel like your board is representing, the different types of members that you have in your organization, you could do this just with your board of directors. Is it related to the mission? Is it delivering on your value proposition? Does anyone else do it? If everybody else is doing it, maybe it's not as valuable. And is it, are you getting a good return on your investment of time and resources? Are your members using it? And then I think a really great question is, if this didn't exist, would we start it today? Would we find enough value in it to start it today? So those are just some questions that you can ask about your programs to help you evaluate them. Engagement, check in on non-engaged members. So that means that you need to track that. Hopefully, whether you're keeping your membership database in Excel or in an online database, tracking what events your members are attending, or what courses they're taking, or what other programs they're taking advantage of. And then looking for those members that aren't doing anything and reaching out to them. On the flip side of that, you can also send engagement letters, which are a way to just say, hey, thank you for being a member. Here's what you did last year. Here's everything you took advantage of from our organization. So just remembering that on a good day, you're number 5. So even though they did engage with the organization, they may not remember everything they did. So reminding them of that value that they received. This can be time consuming depending on your technology that you're using. So think about that return on investment if you're going to do that. But that's one thing you can do. Another thing you can look at is people that haven't attended things right before an event, making sure you're sending them a personal invitation to attend, or maybe sending them a resource that you have and say, hey, check this out. This is part of your membership. Just making sure you're doing that outreach. And then because most people are leaving within their first 1 to 5 years. So really looking at those newer members and making sure that they're engaging with your organization. And then at the end of the day, if you've got disengaged members that, you kind of look at them and think, I don't even understand why they're members, or, none of these programs seem to appeal to them. It's, you may have to just let them go because you cannot serve them, and that's okay. It allows you to focus on the people you can serve. So this chart, and again, I won't go into this in too much detail, but it's really just talking about the things that people feel most engaged doing. So professional development to help them grow their career, networking to make valuable connections, information they need to help do their job, and advocacy that impacts their day-to-day. Those are the things that are making people feel the most engaged with an organization, according to this research. But again, as you ask questions about your members and do event surveys, you'll start to get a feel for what your attendees find to be, or what your members find to be the most engaging. So we're almost there. Number 9, create a simple new member onboarding plan. So as I mentioned before, the lowest retention of members is in that first 1 to 2 years. So creating a plan to onboard your new members in an effective way is really important. The first step is just to make your application process as easy as possible. Try not to make your application too long. You want to ask for the information that you need to serve them, but you don't want it to be cumbersome. Make sure your approval process is as quick as possible. The expectation in this day and age is instant. If you submit something, you get instant gratification. So, that's not always possible, but making sure that approval process is as quick as you can possibly make it. And that they receive a welcome, an invitation to engage as soon as possible, and that we're following up with those people, and that at some point along the way they get some kind of personal touch, whether it's an invitation or a welcome note or whatever you feel is appropriate. And again, check in with those new members if they haven't engaged in the first year. So the last concept is junk in, junk out. This is really focusing on your membership data. And this one, I know it's 10 easy things, but this one's kind of hard to be consistent. Databases are just tools to maintain your membership information. The most important thing is to consistently follow a procedure for tracking member data, whether that's survey data or member general contact information or your engagement. And writing a procedure for tracking that, especially if you're very volunteer driven and you have a lot of people maintaining your membership data, or your staff, procedure for your staff to maintain that data in a consistent way, is really important to make sure that the information that you have in your database is accurate and complete, because that information is power for you. Make sure that you're auditing occasionally to make sure that those procedures are being followed. Make sure you're reporting so that your members get access to their national benefits. And again, this information is power for you, so making sure that you're keeping your database clean and contact information as up to date as possible is really important for all of your membership development tactics. So take a moment to think. I know I just went through a lot of things, but take a moment to write down just 3 things that you think would benefit your organization that we went through, or take some time after this webinar to think through those things.
Thank you for joining us for this session of the Association Management Series, 10 Easy Things You Should Be Doing for Membership Development. If you have any questions on this topic, please send those to info@rayborn.com. For more information on what services Rayborn Group International can provide to you, visit our website at www.rayborn.com.